I didn't notice when I bought it that I was
All
super
right,
amused because.
we are back.
Okay.
Uh, yes,
Yeah.
for anyone just tuning in to one of these after shows, this is largely for our benefit, DM to player communication. I just like to ask everyone how they're doing after every episode, after every session. Check in, get initial feedback, get everybody's reaction to various things I've thrown at them for the session. Make sure we're all on the same page. And I like to promote it as good practice. I know there's a lot of tables that don't they overlook the value of table communication and making sure everyone's on the same page. So I just want to throw this out to those of you who are watching to get the full experience.
It's D&D aftercare.
It's D&D aftercare. Yeah, always got to make, always got to be mindful of aftercare. It's very important.
Yeah, you do. It is. It's really important.
Okay, so I guess to begin this, I will reiterate what I just said off of camera. This session went by super quick for me, and it seems like it went by fairly quick for everybody else. So I don't know if that meant it was very entertaining or if we all just phased out for 5 hours.
We're going to come back to this video and we're just talking nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Which we occasionally do, and by occasionally I mean frequently.
No, so, I felt like, as I was saying, I felt like that first hour was a little slow, and then it started picking up, and then we took a break, and then when we got back from the break, like, next thing I knew it was 6:30. I was like, oh crap. Okay.
Yeah. That last bit definitely went by really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first bit of the game did seem a little slow.
Can't even put my finger on why.
Yeah, I can't even.
About it, felt slow. It just,
Yeah.
I wanted to set the stage for how not isolated but defended and distinct Untyme Tor and Cognarok was, and play up some of the cultural differences. But you're right. I don't know where exactly it stalled out. But how I know Aquila unwittingly walked into a very unfortunate social situation there, and I knew as soon as you said you were going to start boasting, there were really only about two things you were going to boast about. It was going to either be the Medusa, or it was going to be the fire giant situation. And I was like, please do the Medusa, please do the Medusa. You did not roll your history check or religion checks to figure out the significance.
With it too. Yeah. I did. I almost went with the Medusa.
I mean,
but that's going to require a lot of explaining.
Yes.
And then, no, wait a
And the fire giant is the more impressive story.
Yeah. I was thinking, like,
it's the more
if
theatrical
I were
story.
to do it, I would have done the Ursicopia.
The Ursicopia.
But I was like,
yeah, that was one we could have done. I did briefly consider that one, but it's like, yeah, that one I have even less explanation for.
What?
I said the fire giant was the more impressive story, and you said it was the more
more theatrical story.
Oh.
With dropping the building on it and. Yeah.
I don't know, for me,
wow someone. That's the one I would have gone with.
I don't know. I mean, it's like with the Medusa, for me, I got a great moment where I just got to shoot her in the throat.
Yeah. The Medusa fight was less theatrical, and I don't know if you would have, name dropped the Medusa.
No.
Then it would not have had anywhere near the same weight. But being that Medusa was somebody from the original Etrian War 1500 years ago, that definitely would have. So, I mean, at that point, it probably would have divulged into the same you're talking mythological nonsense. there's one thing to boast about being a great warrior and whatnot, but when you're eventually you go way over the top. Unfortunately, way over the top is things that you guys are actually dealing with.
Yeah.
And honestly, who the Medusa was seemed way more unbelievable than the fire giant thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, could talk about Medusa, who pet Basilisk.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, was the daughter of the 1,000-year-old ancient mad king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know, but the thing was, it's like the fire giant just made more sense because of why we were here.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be the thing that was more at the forefront of our mind.
And
yeah,
it's
I know that's why you picked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was slightly concerned because I think I might have had a little more insight into the dwarf stuff.
Mm.
My character didn't, so.
Also, I assumed if you're telling a story, the bigger, especially like a boastful, crazy story, the bigger enemy is the more interesting story.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I promise it wasn't a split-second decision for that to be important. I wrote up as I hope it came across when I was describing the murals and the old man history lesson or religion lesson that I wrote up a whole couple pages of
it was just coincidence.
dwarven mythology, and it was just coincidence that you that Aquila picked something that had old cultural significance to it.
Which, again, it's like, it feels a little unfair for them to hold it that much against me. It's like, why would I know?
I'm not holding it against you.
It didn't really affect anything other than you got a little embarrassed there for a bit.
Yeah.
But, and actually, I mean, it's kind of a good thing if you think about it, though, because that caused us to question, like, wait, crap, why did everyone get so upset? Which then gave us the ammo for going into the conversation with Tumak. It actually kind of was a good thing in a way.
Yeah.
You know, you probably wouldn't have cared so much about those murals.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have read into it and realized, oh crap, this is a big deal to them.
Yeah.
So
after you guys largely glossed over all of the murals I intricately designed for the Lizard Folk Cavern.
I would remember writing down everything about those. I put it together.
I suppose. Yeah. I suppose you were paying attention. I don't think you. Yeah, I don't think
I just didn't connect it.
Yeah, you didn't put some things together that I thought you guys would put together. But
that's true.
That was a year ago.
These
I was not a part of this.
That's true. You weren't.
So, speaking of the murals, though, the one because. And I don't know if I just asked it the wrong way. The one big thing I was trying to figure out from them, since you had the silver dwarves to the copper-colored dwarves to eventually, after seeming to fall apart, the flesh dwarves, are Azer and regular, like, everyday dwarves on the same kind of evolutionary path? Or are they two different branches?
I will expand on that through Tali's conversation with this.
Okay.
And just because I wrote the lore for it, I want to give it out. So you can spend some time conversing with Tali, who will remember more about that long-winded conversation those three old men were rambling on about for 2 hours. And piecing things together, but yes, the dwarves were in their mythology, and that's drastically different from the Genavian mythology, like contradictory to the point where they are mutually exclusive. But in dwarven mythology, they were created like machines by the fire giants, and as I said, eventually they drove the fire giants back. And because they didn't have a way to maintain themselves, and obviously machines can't reproduce, they built themselves a true body, a body of flesh and bone and blood, which should draw some comparisons to recent events.
Yeah, I was going to say that this reminded me, when you were describing it earlier, it reminded me very heavily of the way that the hobgoblins came into be.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like,
yeah.
They weren't technically alive, and then something happened, and now they're alive. Well, not alive, but alive.
Without their whole. I'm even drawing some comparisons. Karg and Ulo.
Ulo. Yeah, Ulo.
I'm drawing some comparisons there to a more Edessa-like figure, or probably what the High Priest, not Tessagrin, because I think Tessagrin was almost the fire giant in a way. In some semblance of comparison, but more in Edessa's backstory. Although we never really.
Nope.
We don't know what
things got very shadowy and gray, and what was just flowery prose to appeal to the masses.
What about that whole thing wasn't shadowy and gray?
Mori Edessa wasn't gray.
No, she was very bright pink and lavender.
That's very literal.
Very cheerful.
Too much pink.
Bright and bubbly. But to get back to Anders' point, yes, when the fire giants were driven back to the fire plane, and they no longer had the proto-dwarves as their slaves, they then upgraded to the Azer. So the original mechanical dwarves and the Azer share kind of like the same blueprint. I mean, they don't really think of it in terms as evolutionary line, but the Azer were like original Metal Dwarfs 2.0.
Okay, so that would be different. In my mind, different branches then.
Yeah.
They're not direct, descended
but they do consider them enslaved brothers.
I was wondering if, because that was my what I was wondering. So are the Azers the ones that decided to keep working with the fire giants, or the ones that were just still enslaved? And
it's more like they are not only still enslaved, but they have been stripped of the consciousness that allows them to think, oh, I'm being enslaved.
So good call on not mentioning them.
He brings up the Azer. I'm like, no, those were dwarf-like beings. I am not bringing them up to a bunch of dwarves.
Well, they were kind of integral to the whole reason why you were there.
I don't care. You could find some way around that.
And see, in my head, my thought with that was like, yeah, but they're dwarves that, like, they're essentially goatee dwarves. Like, they're the evil Spock.
Bizarro dwarf.
Right.
So, like, in my mind, it was like, yeah, we took out a bunch of these guys that are giving dwarves a bad name. They'll be happy about that. But, yeah, with that knowledge, like, ooh.
You're thinking of the Dwargar.
Oh, yeah.
The
Underdark
dwarves.
Okay.
That's the whole that's a whole different story about my version of the Underdark and Nefelti the Deceiver.
I don't ever look forward to seeing, honestly.
Oh, I can't wait for you guys to get to the Underdark.
Well, let me phrase that. Anderkit doesn't look forward to seeing it. I'm kind of curious, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly been fun.
I had a different character in mind should the party have taken that route.
Right, yeah. Christian's been dying to get his hands on some of the more restricted races in my world. Races that really have no reason to be in the general overworld.
I want to play a Genasi.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Yep.
I know.
The closest I got was killing and eating one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was spicy.
A little too spicy.
Yeah, as someone whose character both is unique and stands out, and then is in a couple different ways, next one is going to be much more low key. Non-illegal and a more common race.
Human.
It's not gonna be a common race.
Probably dwarf, actually.
Don't be Scottish.
Yeah, we haven't had a real dwarf in the party because Rauda was not a real dwarf.
Ow.
wasn't.
No, he wasn't a real paladin either.
In this world. No, he wasn't.
Great character, great guy.
I think I could play a dwarf.
He was a fun character.
And I actually had been considering dwarf paladin, so I might. It's definitely a possibility to try and this is how it's done.
I've had a lot of fun in the past couple weeks.
Ideas for a couple of others.
I've had fun the past couple weeks exploring dwarven culture in my world and expanding on it more.
Which will kind of be the awesome thing after running through this is that I'll have a better idea of the culture if I ever do end up playing that. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like that is definitely a big hang-up. Thankfully, being half-elf, there's some excuses for not being fully immersed in the culture, not to mention considering how he had to book it out of his homeland. So thankfully this character kind of gives me ways to excuse his lack of knowledge.
It's like, I mean, I admit I lean on that with Aquila. I unapologetically lean on that one. It's like, yep, I don't know what's going on. I was raised in remote mountains.
But I am glad that now I'm getting to see the dwarven home, more of the dwarven culture before ever getting into that as a character option.
Well, let me also be clear. You're seeing the Kargnarok culture.
Not all dwarves are Kargnarok dwarves.
Just like Talia is seeing the Estian elven culture for the most part.
I'm sure the Onderosi dwarves are far and away different to the ones in Kargnarok.
Or really any other place in the Empire. Just because Kargnarok is almost exclusively dwarven doesn't mean they are the only dwarven
concentration.
Yeah.
High population. Because what other elven, large groups of elves are there other than Estia?
I mean, after the Etrian kingdom fell apart and those who went to Estia became Estia, everyone else has basically been enveloped by the Genavian Empire, and they retain some of that original Etrian background, but they've largely been imperialized. That's the case for most of the races in most of the world, because there have been a few historical points where races have congregated just amongst themselves, but for the most part the world is fairly diverse, because again, this is a world that eon after eon has homogenized, has blended together.
So that's what I was saying, though. So Estia is the only largely predominantly elven nation of that size. Elven group of that size.
Yeah. Estia is the only how would you even say that?
I know it is part of the Empire, but
Estia is an elven state, and Kargnarok is a dwarven state, and you could even say Strahk is the orcish state. But that doesn't mean that's where every dwarf or every elf or every orc originally comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are just kind of the central locations. Yeah.
Isn't there a fairly high population of elves in Kovia and Sedula, or am I mistaking that? Because I know those islands are a little bit not outside of the reach of the Empire, but they're pirates. They're pirate continents, for lack of a better descriptor. They're pirate countries, not continents.
Ooh.
No, I don't believe so.
I thought it might have been something that came up with Shantira.
I would have to go back and check on that conversation. I don't think I've changed anything about Kovia and Sedula since then. Not in a major way. They are very much part of the Empire. I believe the pirate situation largely came up in reference to the smaller islands that dot some of the peripheral areas of the Altemian Sea, whereas Kovia and Sedula were the, maritime trade hub of the Empire. Alsta definitely used to have a large pirate problem. But that was Alsta, not Kovia and Sedula. Kovia and Sedula probably did have problems with pirates because they were the maritime trade hub, but they would have been, on the victim side rather than the pirating side. But this world has been evolving over the past 5-6 years, and definitely since I've had you guys as players to help me narrow my focus and whatnot.
Stick our fingers in everything.
Yeah. So as we continue, everything will become more detailed, and hopefully stay more or less consistent with what I've told you in the past. Occasionally, I do revise things, but I try not to revise large details. Anyway, yeah, we got way off topic of whatever we were talking about.
Things. That happens a lot, though. We're good at getting off topic.
I know we were talking about the murals.
Yeah, clarified that was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And just briefly talked about the lizard folk murals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where
and then we talked about the Aether, and then I think that's...
Oh, yeah.
That's where we started going off topic, I think.
So, what do you guys think about Karknarok?
I like it. It's cool.
I like the steampunk dwarf.
It's also like the 3 layers.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, dwarves have a better grasp on true technology. They have a much more mechanically minded society. They do still obviously rely on magic, but having abundant geothermal steam power has provided them a lot of opportunity for advancing machinery technology. And
I'm still a little upset that gnomes aren't the steampunk race of this setting.
No, unfortunately not. And I do kind of have I take very minor issue with one of the subsets of gnomes, I believe, if not gnomes in general, have the tinkerer feature as a racial quality, as if no other race could figure out how to make a toy soldier.
It's rock gnomes.
Yeah. I don't understand why they are the only race that has figured out how to make toy soldiers or lighters or whatever other things that they can do.
I don't think
they're not the only one, but
race. I think it's simply the fact that gnomes have, I think, for a long time been treated as a race that doesn't really exist. So nobody really. Like, I don't know, we'll let these guys make mechanical squirrels or something.
They didn't know what to give them.
Because they haven't really given them much culturally or anything, they haven't really built much up around them. So it's like, here's their quirk.
Because I actually really like gnomes. Like, they're fun to play.
Yeah, I've never really cared for gnomes. I don't have Colville's disdain for gnomes. They're not banned from the world.
Wait, he banned them?
I believe. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about other people's channels, but I believe he has some sort of issue with gnomes, or at least it's a running gag that gnomes are persona non grata in his fiction. I could be mistaken.
It's a little better than setting Anders things on fire all the time.
It's weird, yeah. Like I've always enjoyed. Like I definitely loved the one I played for the Halloween one shot.
Yeah.
And
but
then,
I don't know how much I would have liked that character long term though.
Yeah, that was a mini adventure character.
It would have been hard for Steven to keep that character going. I think he would drive yourself crazy a little bit.
I don't know, because the depending on what, like, who ends up playing next, me or Taylor, or who does the Artificer next, my gnome Artificer was not going to be very different from that.
I mean, less corpse obsessed.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a pro or a con. But like
he's still obsessed with bodies, just not corpse ones.
I love the archetype of the slightly half-mad, or the half-mad kind of, but super intelligent gnome.
Yeah,
it's just always kind of turned up to 11.
I guess. I just think I get tired of that being sort of their only defining trait. Kind of like I get tired of the horny bard stereotype. It's fine, but when
that's also on my list of possible ideas.
I know, which is why it's like, god damn it. If I play a bard, they're going to be an asexual bard.
I take it back. It wouldn't necessarily be steering into the horny bard stereotype. It'd more just be steering into the jackass bard stereotype. Horny's just a facet of being a jackass.
Doesn't make me like him anymore.
Like if I play a bard before I create the character, I would go through and play the Bard's Tale again.
I remember that.
That is the bard I want to play. Just that's
I guess, but to be fair, my favorite part of that game is Tony J, the narrator. It's like, not the bard, the narrator.
Well, we're getting very off topic at this point.
We do that a lot.
Yeah, we can explore other races. Yeah, I was going to say I much prefer creating provincial cultures rather than rigidly defined racial cultures.
I mean, it makes sense. It's more realistic that way.
Yeah. There was a question about the restricted races and whatnot.
Yeah.
Basically, anything that's not in the player's handbook. Basically, anything that's not in the player's handbook is sort of under review. Goliaths are obviously not an issue.
Yeah.
I do take issue with the anthropomorphized races.
He's never gonna let the Tabaxi be a thing.
Tabaxi, Furbolg. I mean
Jack hates furries. That's
Let's turn into a werewolf creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have any fur though, do you?
No.
See? Hates furries.
You heard it here, folks.
Yep.
But he especially hates cats.
And the viewer count just
secret.
Such is it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the anthropomorphic races that do exist are monstrous races, and that might not necessarily mean that they're of lesser intelligence or lesser civility, but that's the way they're perceived by the Empire. We have seen lizard folk, and, you know, they are clearly sentient people.
There was one of them that was a cool dude, and he was not an NPC.
Yeah. But they are clearly a monstrous race. And And then extraplanar races, because the planes aren't a normal part of this world. This is not a high fantasy setting where you can just pop over to the fire plane and hang out with a fire ganassi, or there's caves on the surface leading down to the Underdark, and you have drow popping out to say hello every week. The Underdark has been sealed away for hundreds and hundreds of years. There hasn't been an Underdark incursion for hundreds and hundreds of years. Likewise, the elemental planes have been cut off because they are they're elemental chaos in nature. They are incompatible with the real world, having easily open planes of fire.
Aren't always.
Huh?
But apparently the things in them aren't always, considering the giant war turtle that's in the ocean now.
Yeah, the one that they had to rip a hole in the fabric of space-time to release. Yeah.
I know. We're lucky we survived that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my point about, like, us finding someone who can actually open a plane. Like, yeah, we've seen 2 of those, and they weren't done by.
Well, we've only seen one of them. We've only seen one of them active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the fire one was not active.
Fair.
But that was also something a bit different because it was stabilized with a gateway.
But as
do you guys not remember the Zorn? There was obviously something fucked up happening in there, because the Zorn don't come from the plane of fire.
Oh, I know, but those we didn't. But that's it. We didn't see the portal that brought them there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are random portals that open up in places that allow smaller temporary travel back and forth. But having a large sustained gateway that allows free travel back and forth from the real world to a planar world has not existed for a long time, or at least has not been public knowledge recorded for a long time, because it's simply far too dangerous to allow to exist. Yeah, the arcane census put a stop to that. But
as long as we don't get involved.
As the world continues to get away from the Golden Age, as it has been, and as the party starts uncovering what exactly that means for the progression of the world, and the boundary between planes begins to open up, or is ripped open by their shenanigans, there may be more reason for Ganassi or Underdark races or Far One races to become playable. They'd still be exceedingly rare, to the point where everyone would stop and question and point fingers and might try to kill you, but they'd be playable.
Yeah, we've done a little trial. I mean, we went to the Feywild that one time. Granted, that was definitely a special occasion.
Yes, that was definitely one of those.
Again, some of us.
Yeah.
You're the one who wanted to stay behind.
Yeah, because I was
tried.
trying to run away.
I know.
I tried.
I was thinking, it's like
And then Semke stopped you.
I know, because she decided to stay behind. But we survived that fight.
Yeah, I don't know how.
2 members, we survived.
I don't know how you managed to survive that fight 2 members down, because I did not tweak it. It was designed for all of you to throw all of your potential at it, and you were 2 people down.
I don't know.
Goes to show I can make my boss fights harder.
No?
Because God loves an idiot.
That's true.
I don't think we've had a real big, well, yeah, the Medusa was after that. But that was still even more lackluster than I wanted it to be, through a series of unfortunate happenstance.
I was saying, you've had at least one fight where you killed a couple party members.
Well,
with the Onlo.
That wasn't really a boss fight. That was,
no, but you killed people.
That was half a dozen smaller fights that you all triggered at once.
No.
And got overwhelmed.
One of us triggered them all at once.
Very different situation.
One of us made it worse.
It was. I was like, no, I mean, it's like, because, you know, nobody considered the full ramifications of shatter, so.
Mm-hmm. You gotta watch those shatter spells. They make a lot of noise.
The spell. She did not know what was gonna happen.
Yep.
Well, again, we just didn't consider that. Oh, right, loud noise will attract everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, she made up for it by using shatter to drop the building on that giant.
Yep.
Yes, she did.
I was there that day, but yeah, she totally did.
Yes, Jack, you made a great decision there.
Well, Tolly did it.
Tolly's character.
Yeah.
Character-wise, it was definitely redeemed shatter.
Yeah, shatter is super useful if used cautiously and correctly.
The right situation.
Judiciously.
Yes. Okay, that's even more references to things that have not been aired.
You need to get on that.
I know, with all the free time you have. Yeah, all the free time I have. Yeah. Okay. Any other interesting insights into today?
I'm pleased that showing off the fire elemental worked as well as it did.
Yeah, that could have gone.
Yeah.
I was worried that it was going to toss it in and nothing was going to happen.
Especially when you said you yelled at it, I was like, you might want to ask nicely.
Yeah, the moment
I had to yell because it was loud out there.
Yeah, the moment that I realized that that's where you were going, I thought you were going to just. Forgive me. I thought you were just going to whip it out in the middle of the dude's inside office area.
But then I realized, no, wait, there's a better option.
Yeah, I was like, I need to get over there now because this elemental is about to burn this whole fucking city to the ground.
I said, I almost did, but then it's like, wait, no, that's a better choice.
I was a little worried when she pulled it out. It was like, is she just going to try and summon it right here? But
no, by that time I had reconsidered.
It's like, well, I guess Ander's gonna assume she's not insane.
Yeah, that would have been
nobody
interesting.
has anything flammable in this very small room.
It was close. It was. I almost did.
And it was like, oh god.
All of those very intricate drawings of the things he was designing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I reconsidered.
Yeah.
And I was slightly fearful of that because I'm like, all right, so is this where this is going to go?
It almost did.
I'm playing a wizard now. I have a book that I have to protect.
Oh right, I forgot about your book.
I can't suck my god's dick to get a new one real fast.
He's not wrong.
He's very wrong.
I'm trying to get back at you for that comment.
That's a little vulgar.
But it's so perfect too.
I mean, also just incorrect. Not my god. Not. It would be very probably upset to be referred to.
Honestly, but it functions basically the same as Lewena does for Tali.
Except I talked to mine first of all.
This stuff.
She talks to Lewena as well.
When has she directly spoken with
Lewena?
Talk back. Yeah. When has she directly had a conversation with Lewena?
I mean,
every time
she had a vision. That was close.
Oh yeah, there were visions.
I've had conversations with Zadok.
Yes.
Yeah,
not only when he's calling me a moron, but I've had them.
Yeah, and trippy visions where you've died for several seconds.
And I don't even think he has a dick.
He can make one out of his oily substance. You know what it tastes like. Oops. No, it's because you threw Regna up.
I know what you mean, but still.
That devolved.
Inappropriate.
Yeah, that
went downhill.
That went downhill. So let's bring it up from there, and we'll
All right, let's
just cut the stream. Cut the stream.
Now they're getting a real look at how we talk to each other outside of
this. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, no, like I said, I was totally expecting that the fire elemental would not show up.
I will say the insight that whole thing gave me was that, like, okay, mythologically, fire elementals are their ancestors. I thought when that was first kind of realized that like, you know, like, it was kind of like when a bell rings, an angel gets his wings thing. Like, yeah, that's in the mythology, but... And then the way Tumak reacted, it's like, oh no, they're legitimately like, this is... Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, again, you're not the most insightful person.
Well, and also, even though this is not necessarily a high fantasy setting, the concept that ghosts exist in some sense is, you know, regarded. Yeah. People wouldn't, I mean, people say they may have seen a ghost, but you don't expect somebody to show up and be like, hey, check out this bottle, pff, it's a ghost. That's basically what you did.
Also, but like, like, elementals really are considered.
Well, I thought that was made pretty clear. I mean, that's why the negative reaction to Akila's story.
Right, but like I said, my initial thing was that, like, oh, that's a mythology thing, not a legitimately held current belief thing, and that it was just they were offended because you were saying stuff that, like, is still talking crap about their history.
See, no, I didn't read it that way.
Just because the elementals are such a different thing that seems crazy, but hey.
But now we know.
Also, what does that make water, air, and earth elementals?
Well,
we did run into a water elemental, didn't we?
Yeah, that's how you got beat with the stick.
Literally, you ran into one.
Yep.
Well,
I didn't run into it. It snatched me up.
Actually, no, it's Arlene always gets captured by things.
Yeah. Yeah. Any of my characters, really.
It is. And you just have such a terrible time trying to escape.
I just remember, I think during that fight, it was like Reet would help me out, and then Reet would get snapped, and I'd help Reet out, and then we just kind of kept switching.
No, that wasn't Reet. Reet was gone by then.
Oh. Was it Akila? Really? Wow.
Akila got snatched up like once, I think.
It was somebody. It was me and somebody that kept taking turns in the water elemental.
I think you trade places with a couple people.
Once again, I guess, old story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm also I don't know why, but I'm kind of suspicious of the Cindercarn thing.
I mean, I am too.
Yeah.
I'm really worried about them going all zealoty cult on us.
Yeah, they're a little, I don't want to say sketchy or shady, but there's a little red flag.
We don't even know them yet.
I mean, no, that's what I said. I don't know why I am, because I have no indication of
because
really
I'm rubbing
anything.
off on you.
Yeah. No, I have the same feeling. Like, it potentially could go bad. But I mean, that's everything.
The way he spoke about them, though, I don't know. For some reason, I get like they're the red-headed, like they're the ones that everyone considers a little off.
That's not exactly the impression I got. But I mean, again, Akila's suspicious of everybody, so of course she is.
Also, I think Anders just reluctant to get more people involved in this whole thing. Like, once again, this was supposed to be you break the damn thing out of the crystal. There, I did my nice thing for the day. Go home and have
But that was the thing. How are we supposed to get down to the magma chamber?
I realize it's a necessity at this point. It was just like, damn it, this is becoming a whole thing, and it wasn't supposed to be like this big of a thing.
You thought it wasn't going to be a thing.
My inner murder hobo was at the top of that first elevator when we went down to see Tumak. I was like, I wonder if we just threw this ruby down to the bottom
I was thinking the
same walked away.
I know.
Someone else's problem.
Yeah.
I was like, someone will find
that was
it
an
eventually.
option.
You know?
Or,
certainly
you
an
know,
option.
it'll just it'll just start burning again.
Maybe Andrew needs to take that back. I'm a little concerned about the two of you holding on to either of you holding on to it.
I haven't done anything wrong with it.
Your frost giant
companion
is never going to hold on to the burn your hand off stone.
I don't blame you, actually.
But yeah, so I'm interested to meet the Cindercarn House representative,
yes,
whoever comes out, and see what they're about. Because yeah, for some reason I'm kind of uneasy about this. I don't know why.
Like I said, rubbing off on you.
Actually, I'm hoping just the fact that Andrew normally trusts people and that ends up being a bad idea means that if I don't trust them, they're actually going to be awesome.
I mean, you trusted Aryeh.
Yeah, fair. Though that did end up causing us a whole world of trouble, Miss. I'm being court-martialed right now.
I know, but it wasn't that he was bad.
No, and not everyone I've trusted has necessarily been directly bad. It's just always gotten us into the shit.
Situations.
Yeah, but at the same time, you need to trust some people, because if it was left up to, like, me, we wouldn't trust anybody.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't always handle everything without help.
Nope.
And eventually, as adventurers, you will occasionally have to go out on adventures.
I mean...
Oh, so you think because you thought this wasn't going to be a big thing.
I mean, fair. So
I always thought it was going to be a thing.
I mean, if we weren't dealing with this, we'd be out chasing a death god thing?
Death cult? Undeath cult?
Yeah.
So, adventures were going to be had.
Yeah.
But we're
this is the side quest, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
anything really a side quest?
Is it a side quest if we don't have a main quest right now?
This is true. I mean, we have a lot of
hanging threads, but nothing actionable at the moment.
Yeah. Well.
No, we're not going to pretend. We're going to pretend that we don't.
Wait, what?
I messed up.
Many actionable things.
Yeah. We're going to pretend that what I said was accurate.
We're going to lie to ourselves because we want
pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a.
But Christian has been stewing for 2 years. Thank you.
On which one?
All of them.
Yes.
Okay. Which one's the worst?
There are still things about the original quest that Penelope went on you guys with that are driving me insane.
So that would have been the one that was related to what we're going to eventually.
Yeah, we're planning on.
Sorry. The original Goblin series.
Oh.
I don't consider the one-offs that we did with the bandits and the undead at the time.
But the undead is what we're about to pursue.
I'll say that was really a one-off. That was the kickoff for the whole Andrashadid thing.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't here the week that
out.
Yeah, it was for me. It was only like 2 sessions.
Yeah,
that's right. I was gonna say, you weren't here the week that Salva and Andrew went traipsing around through the sewer and reconsidered just closing the cover and leaving.
No, I was not.
I didn't say that at the time, but there was a moment it's like,
I try to forget the original Goblin encounter.
Oh god, that first Goblin encounter. Yeah, the one that went completely wrong. Well, Christian wasn't here for that one either.
the whole thing in general. That was just the first step of trying to find the actual ones we were looking for. But
I know, but I just remember that one where it's like, everybody's falling down into their little den, and then it's just one bad roll after another on our part, and Saba nearly died.
Yeah, that part I'm fine with, because that was just funny in hindsight. It's more the incredibly distressing things that happen after. Yeah, like, I can deal with the shitty rolls and getting our asses kicked by a bunch of goblins. That's funny. It's the fucked up goblin keep that broke people that I try to forget.
Yeah, the beginning of that, the beginning of that whole story arc was very dark.
It was. It's like I'm kind of glad that one got done with. That's got done with before we started streaming.
Yeah, that's the unaired season, and
I mean, it was amazing. It was an amazingly heavy.
But that was one that was going to need content warning.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that was great in the same way that like really fucked up heavy episodes of Game of Thrones are great.
I know, but it's one of those. It's like someone who wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a defining thing for a lot of characters.
Most of whom are no longer here.
Well, again, we've drastically gone away from the episode we were supposed to be talking about. I think we are petering out of what we can say about this episode. It went by really fast, and we have a lot of things to look forward to next week. But we've been talking nonsense that nobody has any context for a while now. So
I don't know. I kept trying to go back to the current thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is actually sort of how our normal conversations go. It's like, hey, this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap up there. Yeah. Only so much to say about this episode. So we'll see who the Cindercarn are next week. We'll see what is at the bottom of Kargnarok Volcano, and see what the party's going to do with this enslaved soul flame that they're carrying around, and what sort of other complications that may arise on their journey to deal with that.
Just let us do it.
I mean, you could just chuck it over the railing.
Yeah, nobody's going to notice that.
If you want an easy solution, there is always an easy solution.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Yeah, we'll pick up there. I think this was a fun discussion.
Not necessarily productive, but fun.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's here for. Make sure we're all on the same page. Make sure we're all having fun. That is the key point to any successful game. So let's hope for another successful game next week with a bit more action and a bit more resolution. So
I don't know. Okay with things not trying to kill me.
Yeah, but where's the fun in that?
Surviving.
I had fun.
But that's the thing, we've had plenty of fun with sessions where you weren't trying to kill us.
I suppose that's
not
true.
Fair. You aren't really out to kill us. You're ready to let us suffer the consequences of our actions, but you're not trying to kill us.
Yep.
It's just as bad.
I mean, in some ways it's kind of worse because we have nobody to blame but ourselves for those, but...
Yeah.
No, it's like, you're not a contentious DM.
I try not to be.
Antagonistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, again, one of the things that I very much do appreciate. That it is much more, we have back and forths and discussions, and you'll change decisions if we say something. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. If you guys can convince me and it makes sense, it's the right call, I have no problem saying, you know, that sounds better than what I was originally thinking. But I like having my antagonists have actual personality and goals, and they're going to follow that personality and goals and react to you in a way that their personality dictates, which sometimes is detrimental. And yeah, enemies are usually going to try to kill you. I'm not trying to kill you, but that Ursicopia definitely was. Well, maybe not even really necessarily the Ursicopia, but the Medusa certainly was.
Yeah, she was definitely trying. She got close.
She did.
She
anyway,
wasn't trying to kill us. She was just trying to turn us to stone. And
no, there was a point she was
true.
definitely trying to kill us.
Or at least a few of you.
I can think of who a couple of them probably were.
Yeah. But that is definitely a good tip, and probably something I will focus a behind the screens video on. Making antagonists. I don't even really want to use the term big bad evil guys, because my antagonists are not necessarily evil guys. So just defining your antagonists and allowing the story to progress, dictated by that personality you set up. And having enemies that are self-aware enough to try to escape when they're getting their asses handed to them.
Yep.
Which has come up a few times.
It has. And again, since you don't reward, XP, there's only been a couple times where we've really pursued them.
Yeah. That's certainly really hasn't come back. Yeah.
Or when I really needed to make them dead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've been rambling on long enough. Despite a very quick show today, I think this is one of our longer after shows at this point. But I've had fun.
An hour.
I hope it's been largely entertaining listening to us talk about things that happened before the stream. Yeah. Thanks for sticking around for this video. For those of you who have stuck around, thanks for everyone who will later on check out this video on YouTube. Take a look at all of the cards below on Twitch. We got the YouTube link, we got the Twitter link, we got the Discord link, we got the Patreon link. Check it out. Give us whatever support you can. The best support you can give us is simply to tell your friends about us. Get more people watching the show. I hope it's entertaining. I hope to make an interesting world for everybody to follow and set up for informative GM and player talks. But for the most part, we're playing a game that we have fun with. We all think it's a fun story, so we're throwing it out there to the world. So if you think it's a fun story, tell your friends about it. That's where we'll leave it for tonight. Hope everyone had fun. Hope everyone enjoyed hanging out. And we'll catch you all next week for another episode of The People's Ascension. All right. Bye, everybody.
Das Vidania.
Bye.
Oh, shit. I can't remember.